Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive.
Excited to be here.
Today we're going to be tackling shame,
Oh, yeah.
using the book Unfuck Your Shame by Dr. Faith G. Harper.
Sounds interesting.
Um, and one of the really cool things about this book is it takes a very different approach to shame. It looks at it as a reaction to external factors rather than like an inherent character flaw.
Yeah, that's a shift in perspective, isn't it?
Definitely. And it's actually backed up by research.
Really?
Yeah, especially when you start looking at the connection between shame and trauma and this condition that's often misdiagnosed called dissociative depression.
I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, it's really fascinating.
So where do we even begin with shame? What is it exactly?
Well, the book starts out with a very simple definition. It basically says shame is believing that you are inherently bad and unfixable.
Like fundamentally flawed.
Yeah, and then it goes on to give a more nuanced explanation that comes from the Oxford English Dictionary.
Okay, what does that say?
So the Oxford English Dictionary defines shame as like an uncomfortable emotion that arises from the knowledge of disgraceful or improper behavior, either in ourselves or in people that we identify with.
I see. So it's like this awareness of something dishonorable or indecent that triggers this feeling.
Exactly. And it can be so intense and paralyzing, this feeling of not being enough.
Absolutely. But what's interesting is Dr. Harper stresses that shame isn't just an individual struggle. She brings in the sociologist Thomas Scheff.
Oh, yeah, I read about that.
And he suggests that shame is actually deeply rooted in our relationships.
How so?
Well, Scheff says that shame both emerges from and shapes how we interact socially.
So it's not just about our own internal feelings, but also about how we perceive ourselves in relation to others.
Exactly. And it often leads to these feelings of inadequacy, worthlessness, and rejection.
Like we don't belong or aren't good enough.
Exactly. It's all about sensing problems in our connections with other people.
Now get ready for this next bit. This is where it gets really interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The book talks about the connection between shame and disgust.
What? How are those two things connected?
So brain imaging studies have actually shown that both shame and disgust activate the same region of the brain, the anterior cingulate cortex, or ACC.
So the same part of our brain that reacts to something repulsive is also firing up when we feel ashamed.
Precisely. And here's what's even crazier. The specific part of the ACC that's activated by disgust is also involved in processing social cues.
Wow, so that really highlights the social element of shame even more.
Right. It's like, why aren't we talking about this more? It seems so fundamental to understanding how shame operates.
I know, right? And this realization actually helps us understand the difference between shame and guilt.
Which are often confused, but are actually quite different.
Right, because with guilt, it's about a specific action that we've done something wrong, and it usually prompts us to make amends.
So guilt is like, I did a bad thing, and shame is more like, I am bad.
Exactly. Guilt is focused on the behavior while shame is directed at the self.
Then neurologically, they're processed differently too, right?
Yes, guilt is more of a prefrontal cortex activity,
Which is the part of the brain associated with planning and decision making.
while shame triggers a much deeper, more primal response.
Like it taps into something more instinctual.
Exactly, and this is why shame can be so debilitating.
Yeah.
It really cuts to our core.
To really understand how deeply shame can impact us, Dr. Chloe Medanes talks about these 6 basic human needs.
Oh, yes, I've heard of those.
And she argues that shame can actually disrupt our ability to fulfill these needs, leaving us feeling unfulfilled and incomplete.
That makes sense because these needs are crucial for our well-being and survival.
Right. They encompass both our physical and spiritual needs.
Can you remind me what those 6 needs are again?
Sure. So there's certainty, which is the need for safety, stability, predictability.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then there's variety, which is the need for change, excitement, new stimuli.
Okay, so those are the physical needs. What about the spiritual ones?
So for the spiritual needs, there's significance, which is the need to feel important and valued.
Okay, and I imagine shame can really mess with that one.
Absolutely. Then there's connection, which is the human need for belonging and intimacy.
We all need to feel loved and connected.
And then there's growth, which is our drive to evolve and learn.
Like our need to expand and become more than we are.
Exactly. And finally, there's contribution, which is the need to make a meaningful difference in the world.
So shame can sabotage our efforts to meet any or all of these needs.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to address it.
And speaking of addressing shame, we need to talk about this concept of the shadow self as described by Carl Jung.
Oh, yeah. That's a fascinating one.
So Jung said that the shadow encompasses those aspects of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, the parts we try to hide from the world.
Like our so-called bad traits.
Yes. But it's not just about our negative qualities. It's anything that we've been conditioned to suppress, even our joy, our quirks, our unique abilities.
Because shame is often shaped by societal norms.
Exactly. We internalize these messages about what's wrong with us.
And create this shadow self filled with all the parts of ourselves that we've rejected.
But here's the thing. The shadow isn't inherently evil.
Right.
It's actually trying to protect us.
In its own way.
Yeah, it's like a baby rattlesnake.
Like a baby rattlesnake.
Powerful but clumsy, prone to overreacting and flooding our systems with stress hormones.
Because it doesn't know any better.
Exactly. The shadow wants control, but it lacks the maturity to achieve it in a healthy way.
So what happens if we just ignore the shadow?
Well, the more we try to suppress it, the more it controls us from the depths of our subconscious.
Like it's this hidden force that's always lurking beneath the surface.
Exactly. And it can manifest in all sorts of negative ways. Self-sabotage, broken promises, unhealthy relationship patterns.
It's like it's screaming for attention.
And this is where our deep dive takes a really exciting turn.
Oh, where are we going now?
We're going to explore the concept of soul loss.
Soul loss. I've never heard of that.
It's this ancient idea often associated with shamanic traditions that suggests that trauma can actually cause parts of ourselves to splinter and go into hiding.
Like pieces of our soul scatter.
Exactly. It's a way of protecting ourselves from overwhelming pain.
But if these lost parts aren't retrieved and reintegrated, it can have lasting repercussions.
Absolutely. And the good news is that soul retrieval can be a self-directed journey.
Using techniques like breath work and visualization.
Exactly. Dr. Harper outlines a 3-step process in her book.
What are those 3 steps?
The first step is deep exploration.
What does that involve?
It involves examining our personal history and relationships to identify when and where soul loss might have occurred.
Like tracing back to the source of the trauma.
Exactly. The second step is personal ceremony.
What does that mean?
It means creating a safe and meaningful space for inner work, using elements that resonate with us.
Like candles, music, essential oils.
Yeah.
Anything that helps us create a sanctuary for healing.
Exactly. And the final step is breath work and guided visualization.
To help us access a relaxed state and journey inward to reconnect with those lost parts.
It's an incredible approach to healing the wounds of shame and reclaiming our wholeness.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
Definitely. We'll be back after a short break to continue this exploration of shame and soul retrieval.
And it's a powerful journey, this process of reclaiming those essential pieces of ourselves that trauma and shame have driven into hiding.
It really is. It's like putting the pieces of a shattered mirror back together to reveal our true, complete selves.
And a key part of this soul retrieval often involves exploring altered states of consciousness.
Which might sound a bit intimidating at first, but it's actually a very natural and empowering process.
It's about tapping into the innate wisdom within our bodies and minds.
Accessing those deeper realms where genuine healing can begin.
Absolutely. And there are various techniques that can help us achieve this shift in awareness, like breathwork, meditation, guided visualization.
It's like unlocking a secret chamber within us, where those lost parts have been patiently waiting for our return.
And welcoming them back is so important, extending compassion and understanding to those fragmented aspects.
Recognizing that their exile was a protective measure, not a sign of weakness.
Exactly. It's about understanding that even our shadows contain valuable insights and teachings.
Guiding us towards wholeness.
Precisely. And as we integrate these shadow elements, we reclaim our strength, our energy, our ability to live authentically.
Dr. Harper also talks about the importance of creating a personal ceremony, a ritual that holds deep meaning for us as we navigate this process of soul retrieval.
And this ceremony isn't about following strict rules or dogma. It's about creating a sacred space that aligns with our individual beliefs and practices.
So it could involve incorporating candles, music, essential oils, anything that helps us cultivate a sanctuary for inner work.
A sanctuary where we can connect with our intuition, our inner wisdom, and access those deeper levels of consciousness.
And this connection to our inner world is further enhanced through breath work.
Particularly diaphragmatic breathing, which has incredible power to regulate our nervous systems, calm our minds, and create a sense of openness.
Like hitting the reset button on our stress response.
Exactly, allowing us to access a more serene and grounded state of being.
A state that's conducive to profound introspection and healing.
And from this place of tranquility and clarity, we can then embark on the journey of guided visualization,
which allows us to access our subconscious minds through imagery and storytelling.
Offering a gentle and safe way to explore painful or hidden memories.
It's like watching a film of our own lives, but with the ability to rewrite the narrative.
To reinterpret those experiences that have caused us pain.
And through this reframing, we can begin to release the emotional baggage attached to those memories.
Creating space for healing and integration.
Like taking back control of our stories and transforming them into something that empowers us.
And Dr. Harper actually provides specific guided visualizations in her book, tailored to different aspects of shame and soul loss.
Guiding us back to those pivotal moments where fragmentation occurred, allowing us to reconnect with those lost parts and welcome them back into the fold.
It's important to remember that this reintegration isn't about erasing those experiences or pretending they never happened.
It's about acknowledging their influence, appreciating the lessons they've taught us, and reclaiming the wisdom they hold.
It's about transforming those wounds into sources of strength and resilience.
To truly appreciate the transformative power of soul retrieval, it's helpful to consider its historical context, the ancient origins of this practice.
Soul retrieval has been practiced for centuries by shamans and healers across many different cultures.
Recognizing the profound impact of trauma on our spiritual and emotional well-being.
And it's fascinating how these age-old practices are now being validated by modern science.
Highlighting the interconnectedness of our minds, bodies, and spirits.
Absolutely. And this validation emphasizes the importance of embracing both traditional wisdom and scientific understanding in our pursuit of healing.
Recognizing that true healing encompasses every aspect of our being.
Integrating ancient wisdom with modern insights.
And Dr. Harper's approach really embodies this integration, combining shamanic principles with scientific understanding.
To create a holistic and accessible path towards wholeness.
A path that empowers us to reclaim our lost selves, mend the wounds of shame, and step into our authentic power.
A path that reminds us that we are not broken, but rather beings of immense strength and resilience capable of healing and transformation.
And this journey of healing extends far beyond our personal well-being.
It ripples outward, impacting our relationships, our communities, and future generations.
Like a chain reaction of healing, radiating out from our own hearts and minds.
Exactly. And this ripple effect highlights the importance of sharing these tools and insights, making them accessible to anyone who is seeking healing and wholeness.
Yeah, it's like we become these beacons of light, illuminating the path for others to follow on their own healing journeys. And this sense of interconnectedness really highlights that healing isn't a solitary pursuit, right? We're not doing this alone.
Definitely, we're held up by this network of relationships and ancestral knowledge.
So as we delve inward, we're also tapping into this collective wisdom, drawing strength and guidance from those who've come before us.
That's so true. And this connection to our ancestors can be really powerful, especially when we're dealing with soul loss.
It's like we can call upon the wisdom of our lineage to help us reclaim and integrate those fragmented parts of ourselves.
I love that imagery. And we can cultivate that ancestral support in different ways, like honoring our ancestors, connecting with our cultural heritage, or simply acknowledging their presence in our lives.
It's about recognizing that we're part of a larger tapestry, woven with these threads of shared experiences and ancestral wisdom.
That's beautiful. And it gives us the sense of continuity and belonging, a reminder that we're not alone in our struggles or our triumphs.
And as we wrap up our exploration of shame and soul retrieval, I think it's important to acknowledge that this work can be really challenging.
Absolutely. Confronting shame and trauma can be unsettling and painful.
It's like unearthing these long-buried treasures that have been hidden away for far too long.
Treasures that might be covered in dust and cobwebs, but still hold so much value and beauty.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to approach this process with kindness, patience, and self-compassion.
Recognizing that healing is a journey, not a destination.
It's about honoring our own pace, respecting our boundaries, and celebrating every step we take toward wholeness.
Self-compassion creates this nurturing and safe space for those lost fragments to emerge and reintegrate.
Like we're creating this welcoming haven for those parts of ourselves, assuring them that they're loved, accepted, cherished.
And that sense of belonging is so essential for lasting healing. It's about reclaiming our entirety, embracing all facets of ourselves, both light and shadow.
Because our shadows aren't our enemies, they hold valuable lessons and insights that can lead us to greater authenticity and self-understanding.
And as we integrate these shadow aspects, we expand our capacity for empathy, understanding, and compassion for ourselves and others.
Our hearts grow bigger, more capable of holding the complexity and beauty of the human experience.
And this expanded capacity for love, it's not just restorative for us personally, but it has this ripple effect on our relationships, our communities, and the world around us.
We become vessels of healing, radiating love and compassion outward, contributing to a more just and equitable world.
That's such a beautiful vision, and it reminds us that healing isn't just a personal endeavor, it's a collective responsibility.
It's a journey we take together toward wholeness.
With courage, hope, and the knowledge that we're not alone.
We're supported by this web of relationships, ancestral wisdom, and the incredible resilience within each of us.
And with that support, we can face the challenges of shame and trauma, reclaim our lost selves, and step into our true power.
Dr. Harper leaves us with this really powerful message in her book. She writes, "Healing our shame allows us to become our most authentic selves, not just for our own benefit, but for the well-being of those around us and generations to come."
It's a beautiful reminder that our healing is interconnected, a gift not just to ourselves, but to the whole world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's recap 10 key takeaways.
Okay, sounds good.
Number 1, shame is an emotional response to external events, not a character flaw.
Number 2, shame is deeply intertwined with our social connections and how we see ourselves in relation to others.
Number 3, shame and disgust activate the same area of the brain which emphasizes just how visceral this emotion can be.
Number 4, guilt motivates us to make amends, while shame makes us want to hide.
Number 5, shame can block us from fulfilling our fundamental human needs, both physical and spiritual.
Number 6, the shadow self contains parts of ourselves that we deem unacceptable, but it also holds valuable insights.
Number 7, ignoring the shadow only makes it stronger, leading to negative thoughts and behaviors.
Number 8, trauma can cause soul loss, where fragments of ourselves disconnect and go into hiding.
Number 9, soul retrieval is a journey of reintegration that can be facilitated through practices like breathwork and visualization.
And number 10, healing our shame is a gift not only to ourselves, but to our relationships, our communities, and future generations.
I hope you found this exploration helpful, and I encourage you to continue exploring these ideas.
You're capable of healing and transformation, and remember, you're never alone on this path.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Unfuck Your Shame. We'll see you next time.